Hi all, welcome to the AIESEC in Sri Lanka Vodcast series with IFS. I'm Apurva, your host for the day, and I'm the current Vice President for Public Relations of AIESEC in Sri Lanka. So AIESEC is a globally present youth-run organization with the aim of promoting value-driven youth leadership experiences for young people across the globe. AIESEC in Sri Lanka is currently present in more than 20 universities with a member base of more than 2,000 members, and this year we are celebrating 75 years of AIESEC establishment globally. With that, moving on to the resource collaborator for this series, IFS develops and delivers cloud enterprise software for companies across the globe. Currently, it has an employer base of 5,000 plus employees globally and 2,000 employees in Sri Lanka. With that, I'd like to introduce the resource persons for today's podcast. We have Nuwan Perera, the Vice President for Software Operations, and we also have Maduka Rubasinghe, the Director for Global Consultancy at IFS. It's so nice and it's a great pleasure to have you guys here with us today.
Pleasure is ours.
Okay, so Nuwan and Maduka, in this episode of our podcast series, we are talking about leadership and more importantly, inclusive leadership. You know, it's a term that we have heard most of the time, but today we are going to get to the bottom of it and let us tell you how we can put inclusivity and leadership together. So, before moving on to the topic, I think it's important that we first let our audience know what inclusivity actually means to us, and also how we exercise it, how we practice it, how we see it in our workplaces, more importantly. So in my perspective, I would say that inclusivity is actually an opportunity that you can provide to represent different people, their differences in a common platform so that they can strive to achieve their fullest potential. Not only that, at AIESEC, what we believe is everybody can become a leader, and going in that direction, we try to provide leadership experiences for young people, disregarding their background, wherever they come from, what religion they practice, whatever that is. We try to run this inclusive agenda within our organization in trying to do what we do at our level best, which is promoting youth leadership experiences. And at AIESEC, we do that with the way we represent ourselves, the way we talk, the content that we publish online, to the events and engagements that we do. We try to make sure that the members that we have, or the type of leadership that we groom, more importantly, understands the importance of inclusivity at large. So, turning to you, Nuwan, what is your opinion on inclusivity, and how does it relate to you as a corporate personality in your workspace?
First of all, thank you very much, Apurva, for having us, and it is really good that AIESEC is putting a spotlight on this topic, so which is fantastic. So, to me, inclusivity is about creating fairness and opportunities for all, and it's about valuing everyone as one. We all know that we have various backgrounds and diversities. So inclusivity, to me, is an opportunity to acknowledge these diversities. That means everybody gets to involve in various activities. From an office or a workplace perspective, that means we are building a more welcoming workplace, and it's a nice place to work. So to me, that's what inclusivity is.
Definitely not. So turning on to Maduka, what more do you have to add for that?
Yeah, Apurva, in my opinion, inclusivity is having a culture that welcomes everyone despite their differences. So thank you for giving the opportunity to describe what it means to me, because in an inclusive workplace, we all feel valued and welcomed. So that gives to me as a person the confidence, the energy, the positivity, because you know we all have our own differences. We have our different personal traits, We have different capabilities, we come from different social backgrounds, educational backgrounds, we might have different religious beliefs. So no matter what, if we are welcomed, we feel that confidence. At the same time, if I'm not judged for being the person I am, I feel very comfortable. And at the same time, if I have the equal opportunity, I feel respect and recognized. So then I tend to give that value back to the workplace. So it collectively creates a very positive environment where everyone is ready to go that extra mile.
Okay, yes, I can relate very much to the confidence part that you mentioned.
Yes.
It's pretty relatable there. So, now that we know about the importance of inclusivity in a workplace, our audience must be wondering, if we are to actually activate inclusivity within our workspaces, we do need a certain kind of leadership to do that. So that is probably where inclusive leadership comes into play. So I'm going to throw this question at the two of you. How would you define inclusive leadership? Maduka, you want to start?
Now we know what inclusivity is. Inclusive leader is the person who takes actions actively to create that culture. Because the leader, inclusive leader, they understand their own personal preferences and biasnesses, at the same time others' preferences and biasnesses, and take action to minimize the differences. And at the same time, inclusive leader is the person who consider this diversity to take competitive advantage and create innovation and get the best out of each and every individual, isn't it, Nuwan?
That is very correct, Maduka, because I'll give an example to what you just alluded to. Let's say an inclusive leader is a person who would include a lot of people when they want to make a big decision. So they won't just impose their view on others. They would pretty much consult all the necessary stakeholders before making a decision. So the plus side of it is that when you have an inclusive process, when you have an inclusive leadership process, people tend to own that decision. So that makes implementation of that decision very easy, because everybody is part of it and everybody tends to own of it. Everybody's decision. So it's a collective decision. So that's an example for inclusive leadership, I would say.
Okay, right. So now that we know about inclusive leadership as well, let's move on to talking about actually the actual importance in it when it comes to the corporate setup, because these days more often than not we do hear a lot of awards, a lot of recognition given to the corporates to assess the kind of inclusivity or inclusive leadership in the workplace. So Nuwan, I'm going to turn to you. What is your opinion on this? What do you have to say about it?
I think you're right about those awards, and because there's a bit of spotlight on this topic right now. However, I would say that having an inclusive workplace, it would be common sense for the leaders. So it's the right thing to do. It's simply the right thing to do. So inclusive, when the workplace is inclusive, you kind of destroy all the boundaries that you have within the organization, so the people feel empowered there. And even when you take corporate performance, when a leader is inclusive, they tend to involve a lot of people when making decisions. They tend to facilitate a lot of innovation, as Maduka mentioned earlier. So that innovation might help you to create new products or reach new markets. On the other hand, take HR side of things. When your workplace is more welcoming, your people, they won't leave, they want to stick around. And the word of mouth will go out, and then it might help your talent attraction as well. So it's simply the right thing to do. And who wouldn't want to work in an inclusive workplace?
Yeah, definitely. Well said, Nuwan. So that's something important that we can carry back home. Inclusivity, inclusive workspaces, it's common sense. Okay, so with that, I'm turning to Maduka. That importance, now we understand. But how can we actually become an inclusive leader? Or how can we identify inclusive leaders in workspaces, Maduka?
Yeah, Purva. There are multiple qualities of an inclusive leader that we can go on talking about. But if I elaborate on few important qualities, being open-minded is very essential, because inclusivity is about no matter what your opinion is, but you be open to other opinions, open to other new ideas, perspectiveness, and also open for feedback. Sometimes it could be constructive criticism as well. So being open-minded, that plays a vital role. At the same time, as an inclusive leader, there should be a visible commitment towards creating an inclusive workplace. And that commitment should be seen and heard by everybody else. So having that commitment is really important. There can be, different policies, practices in the workplace to encourage inclusivity. But the leader's influence plays a major role, and studies show that it plays about 70% of inclusive
That's a
workplace. That's more than half of it. So that's really important, that commitment from the leadership. At the same time, being empathetic, because that is the ability to put yourself in others' shoes. So when you're empathetic, you are in a better position to understand the other person, their priorities, what they are going through, being sensitive to what other person is thinking about. So when the leader is empathetic, it gives the opinion to others, okay, so I'm heard, I'm seen, and my opinion values. And that creates a sense of connection with the leadership, and it makes it easy, that strategic shared decision making that Nuwan explained. So being empathetic is very important. At the same time, having that clear communication, that's really important, because as an inclusive leader, you have to listen actively, right?
Yes.
It's very important, because the person should feel that they are heard. So that's really important. At the same time, you have to talk effectively, respectively, right? Because it's really important to other person to realize, okay, this person, my leader, is talking to myself, addressing my concerns. So that's really important. So I think I can pick those few as most important ones. Yeah.
Okay, yes, there's surely a lot, but now maybe our audience can identify a few traits that they can maybe practice if they want to become inclusive leaders, and surely some traits that they can spot in people within their workplaces to identify as inclusive leaders. Right, so now that we know how we can become inclusive leaders, and we know that these qualities are going to influence us, we can look at the practicality of it. How can we actually practice these qualities? Having qualities, I don't think that's gonna suffice, right? There should be more than that. So how can we actually put things into place? How can we actually activate that? I'm gonna turn to you.
So Maduka very rightly said that inclusive leaders are active listeners. So let me continue my previous example with that. Now, in companies, in corporates, you go through change management day in and day out. Something or the other changes every day. So big part of what leaders do is change management.
Yeah.
So if you are an inclusive leader, when you are including everybody relevant in that change management process, then it will make change management easy, because we have heard horror stories of change management going wrong just because right people were not consulted or right people were not informed about it. So here is a golden opportunity for inclusive leaders. Like if they include everybody, then, as I said, people tend to own those decisions. So when you subsequently implement them, people will rally around you and they'll do the implementation for you and they'll take the ownership of it. So that's the ultimate goal of an inclusive leader, right? So that's kind of a practical way to look at it. Maduka, you have any?
Yeah, I'd like to add a few points there too. When practicing inclusivity, I think education plays an important role, because there are a lot of material out there. The people talk a lot about inclusivity, so it's really important that you educate yourself as a leader, at the same time educate your co-workers or your team. It's really important, because I'll give you a very nice example. Recently there was a job advert that was published. So being a tech company, we tend to write job adverts in a particular way that when we went through it, that it gave the opinion that this is more suitable for a male than a female, right? So when we are educated to write our job advertisements to be, gender free, we know about it, so we can practice about it. So it's really important being educated about having that inclusivity. At the same time, it's really important to be mindful, right? What you talk, the words that we use, the phrases that we use, sometimes even the examples that we take.
You never know who will hear.
Exactly. So it's really important being mindful, because most of the time the biases are unconscious.
Yes.
So it's really important being mindful. That will help to practice inclusivity.
Okay, right. Wow, what an amazing discussion we had. I think our audience had a lot to take out from this episode. Thank you very much, the two of you, Nuwan and Maduka, for your time and your great opinions on the topic of inclusive leadership. That's quite a fruitful discussion we had today. I believe that our audience is going to love this episode a lot. Thank you very much, Nuwan and Maduka, for your time and your opinion. As for you guys, that is it with the AIESEC and Sri Lanka Vodcast with IFS. We'll meet you soon with another episode. Till then, stay tuned.